The presence of Islam in France cannot be separated from the history of French colonialism in North Africa. In 1830, France began to colonize Algeria, followed by Tunisia and Morocco. In this process of colonization, thousands of Muslims from the Maghreb region became citizens of French colonies. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Muslim soldiers from North African colonies began to be recruited to strengthen the French military, especially during World War I. More than 100,000 Muslim soldiers fought on the European battlefield, and many of them settled in France after the war ended. After World War II, France experienced a labor shortage. The government opened its doors to immigrants from its former colonies, especially from Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. During this period, tens of thousands of Muslims migrated to France to work in the industrial and construction sectors. In 1962, Algeria became independent from France. Many Algerians chose to remain or even migrate to France because of the historical and administrative ties that had been formed during the colonial period. Muslim communities began to form communities in large cities such as Paris, Marseille, and Lyon. As the Muslim population grew, so did the need for prayer spaces. Mosques began to appear, both in the form of converted houses and new buildings. In 1926, the Grand Mosque of Paris, Grande Mosquée de Paris, was dedicated as a symbol of respect for Muslim soldiers who died in World War I. However, it also became the center of Muslim spiritual and social life in France. In the 1980s and 1990s, issues of identity began to emerge. Children of the first generation of immigrants began to question their place in French society. This phenomenon became known as the second-generation search for identity. Public discussion began to debate the role of Islam in French secular society. The following years were marked by various social and political tensions. The issue of wearing the hijab in public schools came into the spotlight. In 2004, the French government passed a law banning prominent religious symbols, including the hijab, in public schools. Tensions escalated further after several terrorist attacks claimed by radical groups such as ISIS, such as the Charlie Hebdo attacks in 2015 and the Bataclan attacks. As a result, public perceptions of Islam have become more complex and suspicious, even though the majority of French Muslims reject violence and terrorism. Today, Islam is the second largest religion in France after Catholicism. There are an estimated 5 million Muslims in France, making it the country with the largest Muslim population in Western Europe. Despite challenges in integration, discrimination, and stigma, many French Muslims are active in public life, whether in politics, culture, arts, or sports. Younger generations of French Muslims are increasingly vocal about their identity as both Muslims and French citizens. Although often the subject of debate, the Muslim community has made significant contributions to the development of modern France. In the world of art and culture, artists of Muslim descent such as Jamel Debbouze, Tahar Rahim, and Rachid Taha have brought new colors to French film, music, and theater. In the field of sports, figures such as Zinedine Zidane, Karim Benzema, and Kylian Mbappé, who have Muslim backgrounds, have made France proud on the international stage. They are not only symbols of immigrant success, but also proof of how Muslim and national identities can coexist. Equally important, many French Muslims work as doctors, teachers, entrepreneurs, scientists, and politicians. They are part of the social fabric that underpins the nation's daily life. France is a secular, laïc state with a strict separation of religion and state. However, this principle often provokes controversy when applied to Muslim religious practices. The 2010 law banning the niqab in public spaces, as well as regulations on the wearing of headscarves and religious symbols in certain spaces, are often seen by some as a restriction on religious freedom. On the other hand, the government and some members of society see these measures as an attempt to maintain the neutrality of the state and national unity. In recent decades, Islamophobia has become a serious problem in France. Attacks on mosques, discrimination in the workplace, and hate speech against Muslims have increased, especially after major terrorist incidents. Muslims in France, especially the younger generation, often face an identity dilemma. They are faced with pressure to prove that they are French enough, while maintaining their ancestral faith and culture. However, amid these challenges, many civil movements and Muslim communities have emerged to challenge stereotypes, build interfaith dialogue, and strengthen social solidarity. The future of Islam in France depends on many factors: government policies, societal attitudes, education, and the role of the media. More and more young Muslims are making their voices heard through politics, art, activism, and technology. To truly understand the place of Islam in France, we need to listen to the voices of those who experience it. For many French Muslims, their daily lives are not much different from those of other citizens. They work, go to school, pay taxes, and contribute to society. A Muslim mother wearing a hijab may simply want to take her child to school without feeling watched. A Muslim student wants to learn and grow without always having to defend his religious identity. A Muslim entrepreneur wants to be known for his achievements, not his religion. These stories remind us that behind the statistics and the polemics, there are human beings with the same hopes, concerns, and dreams as any other citizen. A profound question often arises: should Islam adapt to France, or should France be more open to Islam? The answer may not have to be extreme in one direction or another. History has shown that national identities can evolve over time. Just as Catholicism has been a source of tension in the past, Islam is now in a period of transition and searching for its place in the fabric of the Republic's society. What is important is the recognition that being Muslim and being French are not two opposites. They can complement each other in terms of rights, obligations, and humanity. The history of Islam in France is a complex one, full of wounds but also full of hope. From the Muslim soldiers who died in the world wars to the young generation who now sit in parliament, Islam has been part of the French story. The future can be brighter if it is based on mutual understanding, respect, and openness. In an increasingly pluralistic world, France has the opportunity to be an example of how a secular state can value diversity and how Islam can grow in a peaceful, intellectual, and constructive spirit. This certainly requires efforts from both sides. The state must be able to create a just and equal space where religious beliefs are not politicized or systematically suspected. Meanwhile, the Muslim community in France is also challenged to continue to actively contribute to social, cultural, and political life, without having to sacrifice their spiritual identity. Honest and inclusive dialogue is key, not a dialogue based on prejudice or fear, but a dialogue based on the desire to build a shared future. Education, media, and public policy must be a means to bridge differences, not widen the gap. Ultimately, the question, who should adjust, may not be the most appropriate question. What is more important is how we together create a just living space, where identities need not be hidden, and diversity is seen as a strength, not a threat. Because it is in this diversity that France can rediscover the meaning of liberté, égalité, fraternité, not just as a slogan, but as a reality felt by all its citizens.